public forum. So David and Troy, would you like to come up, please? Now they've got 10 minutes. I don't know how you want to do it, David. Do you want to do it?
We'll do it jointly.
Jointly? Great, 10 minutes. And now there's a handout that Megan's going to pass around as well. Great. Welcome along. Welcome.
And
Troy.
thank you very much for adjusting the timetable. We appreciate that. I'm joined by Troy Hall. Perhaps if I give some explanation about Troy. He's been in Christchurch as of yesterday to launch his advocacy program as a survivor of a traumatic event. 13 years ago, he was fighting for his life in a hospital bed with 60% burns to his body, unable to move or talk at 22 years of age in 2011. He had been electrocuted twice by 110,000 volt lines whilst picking avocados for work in an orchard in Taronga in wet conditions, and he was in the cherry picker, and it was October the 14th of October when his life changed dramatically. He shouldn't, in theory, be here. He is a survivor, and he's committed in many respects in trying to ensure our young folks, irrespective of whether they've gone through a traumatic event such as he has, understands the position you face in a very deep hole in life. You find your way out, and Troy is trying to advocate around that. Turning to my address today and why we're here, I think it's important to acknowledge the Finance Committee is doing a superb job as the councillors in rebuilding the city, but very much in our view, much of it is focused on obviously the physical elements, which are very important. We've got to get the buildings up, we've got to get business and the economy running. But we do wonder from time to time whether the people of our city, particularly the young folks, are sort of left behind in some way. So our joint public forum presentation will focus on the role the City Council can have in advocating for enhanced policies supporting the health, safety and well-being of Christchurch citizens, particularly the younger generations who continue, in our view, to face the lasting effects of the multiple traumatic events over the past decade. We're particularly concerned about the central government's possible and insufficient attention to the needs of younger citizens who have experienced traumatic events. What we think isn't happening is there isn't enough auditing done to make sure that these young folks are falling through the gaps and not being supported. So we're particularly concerned about that. We acknowledge that this falls outside the direct responsibilities of this council, but we believe you can be a strong voice to Wellington in advocating, at the very least, for a review to be done to make sure that these young folks, my own daughter of 8 grew up with the earthquake and joined university at the start of the COVID. They've been impacted, and we think that not enough is done to support them, particularly through health. The key issues facing the younger generation, we believe, as I said, the Canterbury earthquakes, the mosque attacks, and of course the impact of COVID. So our call to action to you today through the City Council, as we've said, you're not directly involved in delivering mental health services, but we would argue that the Council has this crucial role to play in advocacy, and we would encourage you to do that, and we would encourage you to work with Troy and myself in understanding how you can be effective in respect of that. We've indicated what we think the Council could look at, but again, we're not the experts, and no doubt your staff will have some views on this, but certainly we think the area of funding needs to be looked at. We think there's a lot of wastage, and we think that a lot of that wastage should be directed more in the areas of concern to us. I won't really go through everything that I've detailed, because I now think it's important that, in summarising, as I said, we believe, the physical scars of many young people in Christchurch, they still carry them, and we urge the City Council to take a proactive stance by advocating for strong policies and comprehensive support from central government to ensure these individuals are being looked after. I would now like to introduce you to Troy, who will just provide a few comments about where he's come from and his view on this matter. Thank you, Troy.
No pressure, eh? But thanks, guys, for having me today. I really do support what David's talking about. Me personally going through What I've been through has been a really dark and long journey for me, but I've realised nowadays that I could be an advocate for mental health, and the things that David has been saying is something that I agree with a lot. It might not be physical challenges that they're facing, but the mental, and a lot of people can understand, and even people that have come from other countries, other places of trauma. I believe it's something that really needs to be, attention needs to be focused on that. We all go through adversities, we all go through a lot of, times of traumatic experiences. So there are people out there that are, how would you say, in a silence, how would you explain it? They're silently fighting the battle of what's happened to them. David gave me some examples of people that are going through that, even a bus running through and shaking the area, that sort of really creates that trauma. It's like a trigger. So I believe in that too, because there's a lot of triggers that I still have with the experiences that I've been through. So me personally, I feel that it is important to at least get awareness out there that there is help for these people. I just keep it short and sweet, to be fair, but it's enough for me to understand that I do acknowledge what David is saying, and wherever I can help possible as well in that sense, I would love to sort of be a part of it. So, yeah, that's about it for me.
I think we need to reiterate this is not a criticism of this council,
No,
and it's certainly not a criticism of the government. We just think that someone needs to pause for a moment and ask, what's happened over the last decade in the city? Are our young adults, the future of this city and the future of this country, are they being well provided for, or are they silently suffering? And we think that there are many. I should say that in presenting this presentation today, I have spoken in confidence with many medical professionals, and they were nervous, should I say, in speaking publicly. They know that I'm not nervous in speaking publicly when it comes to advocating on these matters. And so that's why we're here today, as well as addressing you. We also will be obviously talking to our colleagues in Wellington, the various ministers, but again, we would encourage you to think about this, and we're here to work with you if you wish to take up our challenge. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you both very much for coming. Good question. Yeah, Kelly's got it. Thank you both, David and Troy, for coming in, and welcome, Troy.
Thank you.
Kelly has a question.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for sharing, Troy. I just wondered if you could maybe outline just the one thing that made a real difference to you in improving your mental health after going through what you went through. Was it, were there people, who were open to listening to your story and helping you out there? Just curious to know.
A lot of it's to do with attitude. That's my main sort of how would you call it? Sort of the main motto of my presentations that I do around companies, corporates, and all that sort of stuff is that attitude is everything. When you have the right attitude, you're going to look at things in a better perspective, being grateful for things. It's very hard to do that at the best of times, especially in my situation, but the more grateful you can become, and having good routine, good environments and everything around you, because I came from a cultural background of gangs and violence, drugs and alcohol, so I know both ends of the spectrum. Nowadays I realise that, as much as I love my brothers on the other side, I realise that they're still doing the same old things, so it's not a good path to go down. And they're still doing the same old things from teenage years where I was as well. So I believe environment is important. I believe attitude as well, gratitude, just being grateful for the little things, to be fair, because a lot of the world, they're really struggling out there, and it's really difficult to, we live in a world, we're in a beautiful country at this stage in time, we've got all the things that a lot of people don't. So that alone should be enough for our youth, especially in New Zealand. They should look at that, especially, being grateful for all the little things. Yeah, so.
Great. Hey, well, thank you both.
Can I just start, since we've got, I think, a few minutes, just one final point I should have mentioned.
Minute, David.
Thank you. Many people have asked us why Troy selected Christchurch to launch his campaign yesterday. Troy felt strong connection with Christchurch because, obviously, the earthquake was in 2011, and some months later, of course, his tragedy. He wants to acknowledge the 185 people that died that day, but also wants to bring some attention to the nearly 7,000 that were treated for various injuries, 220 roughly, of major trauma. And whilst he's been in Christchurch, we are reaching out to some of those people so that Troy can share his experiences, hopefully together, and these people can find their way forward on their journey of recovery. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Brilliant. Hey, we have no petitions, David, do we? No, great. So we'll come to the first staff report, which is item 7. Is Luke here? Oh, Luke is here. Great. Come on up.